Alongside my buddy Frankie Corrado for Domino's, that's hockey. Frankie, we're all set to go for the new season. And Leon Draisaitl has got a smile on his face you can't wipe off. And obviously, that's because he signed that 8-year, $14 million a year deal. I don't think there's anybody in the world that says he's not worth the dollar. We get it. He absolutely is. But the real question now becomes if you're giving Draisaitl 14 a year at the max, what are you giving McDavid? Does the number start 15, maybe even 16?
Well, it's higher than Leon Draisaitl, and
a lot higher than Draisaitl.
Let's call it for what it is. If Leon Draisaitl wanted a 2-year deal, he wanted an 8-year deal, if he wanted 14 million, 15 million, like he got to dictate the terms on this deal. Connor McDavid gets to do that as well. Now, keeping in mind the spirit of this team trying to win a Stanley Cup, and if they don't get that done, especially before this deal gets done, he's going to have to be cognizant of leaving a little bit of money on the board. But
it's not like Draisaitl took a haircut at 14 a year.
No, he definitely didn't. But you always have to go about percentage of the cap. Okay, so if we're talking percentage of the cap, Leon Draisaitl just took a deal, a smidge under 16% of the cap. So now with Connor McDavid, like if he goes to $16 million a year on a $92 million cap, are we talking about, over 17% of the cap? He's not going to go to 20. Like, he's not going to handcuff his team that much. So you're projecting
if it goes up to 92 next year, because right now it's 88.
For sure. Like, we're projecting that the cap is going to keep going up. We're not going to live in this flat cap world. And if it does, we're thinking, 17% of the cap is higher than what Leon Draisaitl signed for and still gives Connor McDavid plenty more money than Leon Draisaitl, although that is not going to be the determining factor when Connor McDavid does his deal. The determining factor is going to be, how can I stay here for a long time and win here for a long time?
But can you win there if you lock up approximately 30% of your cap on just 2 guys?
Okay, that's a good question, because there's one team that is in Canada that hasn't been able to do that with all their money tied up in 4 players. But it's different with the Edmonton Oilers. You know why? Those 2 guys, McDavid and Draisaitl, they do it in the playoffs. They are very good. Last year, both of those guys combined for 73 points over the course of that playoff run. That is pretty spectacular. And the other thing, we just saw it. When in 2019, the salary cap was what, $79.5 million? Yeah. It went up to $81.5 in year 2022. It just didn't move. If it actually moves this time around, then yeah, you can say that, you can test that theory and say that you can actually win with more money tied up in fewer players, but the cap has to move.
Evan Bouchard.
Yeah.
He's going to be looking at what, 10?
Well,
so now
he's going to have a compelling case.
Okay, so if he gets 10 and you've already given away 30 with the other 2, now you're looking at half your cap on 3 guys. Does that take you out of
and don't forget, Darnell Nurse makes $9.25 million. So you still have to keep that in mind. Like, that's money that's already on your books. Here's the thing with Evan Bouchard. If he has a massive, massive year, numbers-wise, which he very well could, he plays on that power play, and he's not just a decoy, he's a big part of that power play, and he puts up 90, 95 points if he's, crawling into that 100-point pace, which is crazy. It's crazy to think about, but he's that talented offensively, he can do it. Do you want to pay him $10 million? And you still have to keep in mind, he has to ride shotgun with Matthias Ekholm. Like, he's not Cale Makar. He's not Quinn Hughes. He's not a one-man show. Like, he's great on the power play. He still needs a little bit of a stabilizer. So $10 million for Evan Bouchard, although the numbers might be there, it is a lot of money to pay a guy that still needs to ride shotgun with a very stable player.
One final question. You're a former player in this league. Say, for example, an outside player now is a free agent, is a UFA looking for a place to pay. Would you be willing to take a bit of a haircut financially because you look at a team that's got the combo of Draisaitl and McDavid, and they've got a real chance to win, and they're locked up long term? Would you be willing? Is that the way the Oilers work at this and say, we can't give you what you're worth, but we'll give you your best shot to win?
It depends where you're at in your career and what you're looking for. Like, if you're a player who's kind of
Isn't that what the Oilers have to do in order to win? Otherwise, they're
going to have to find some value elsewhere, no doubt about it. And that was always the thing with Toronto was, they had to win early. They had to find value elsewhere. The same thing is going to go for the Edmonton Oilers. The thing they're going to have going for them, and I would argue they've had this going for the last little while, is Connor McDavid. Players say, I want to play with Connor McDavid. Yeah. This guy is going to win a Stanley Cup sooner rather than later. If I tie myself to him, sure. There. And you know what? Yeah. If you look around the league, Jeff Skinner's a great example. You get bought out, you say, I got that money already. Let's go try and win something. Yeah. Let's go try and play a Stanley Cup playoff game for the first time in your career. Like, you will have instances like that pop up where players say, okay, the 8-year, $68 million deal, that's not on the table for me right now. So what's the next best thing? Let's position myself to win a Stanley Cup So then the longer-term deal is available for you afterwards when you're branded a champion.
It's a big roll of dice. If you're going to pay top dollar for talent, it helps when they deliver. McDavid and Draisaitl, the pair have combined to win 4 of the last 8 league MVPs.